911.
Whoa, everybody. Welcome to Real Vile. It's going to get real violent here, babies. Welcome to our second edition of our Pride Month series. I am, of course, your host, the G to the E to the R to the M. The T stands for the, but you already knew that. And we're about to rip it up in a modern way, so you know it's got to be Mr. Ripper. And of course, I'm accompanied by my great and beautiful and wonderful co-host, the Sinister, the Prime Minister, Mr. Ruthless Chris. Say hello to the people in Real Vile Land, Chris.
What's up, jerks?
What's up, jerks, indeed. And of course, we cannot forget the Tower of the Hour, the Princess of Power, the killer Kelly Miller. What's up, Kelly?
Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey, girl. Hey. Absolutely. Let's keep that hey, girl. Hey energy.
Hey, girl. Hey. There we go. A little more enthusiastic.
I like it. I love it. Give me more of it. What have you guys been up to this week?
This week went by fast, actually. Like, I don't know if I got a chance to really do anything.
I went and picked up our sponsors at Hyperion Belts made us a brand new belt. We'll be debuting in Chicago. I went and picked that up the other day. It is quite spectacular looking in person.
It's pretty.
We went to the Old West End Festival over the weekend. That was fun. It was not as raucous as it usually was. It seemed a lot more mellow.
Which is probably for the best.
But we went there and walked Pork Chop around. She got all the attention because of her giant, hangy, saggy tongue. So yeah, we went and did all that. That's about it. Getting ready for, by the time you hear this, Chicago will be 1 week away. So hopefully, if you're in the Chicago area, you join us at the Berwyn Eagles the 17th. And come say hi to all four of us, because all four of us, including producer Peapod, will be there.
And could you reiterate the name of your show that's coming up?
It is called Take Is Needed for Pain. It is at the Berwyn Eagles. It will be doors at 2, start time at 3 in the afternoon. We have Abdullah Kobayashi coming all the way from Japan for it. It's a completely stat card, and there is some stuff that we did not announce that will be happening. It'll be we got some stuff planned. It'll probably be one of our biggest shows to date. We try to top the last one every time we do a show, and I really think we're lined up to do that with this one. So hopefully we could put on something really amazing for you guys. And coming out, first and second row are sold out. We do have some general admission left. It would be advisable to get a ticket ahead of time, just because I'm not sure if it will sell out before the show. So there may be some at the door as well.
Well, I'm very excited for that. You know, I've been excited for Ruthless Pro Wrestling for a while, ever since the announcement that you're coming to Chicago. And of course, as I've been talking about for months now, I just had my ring announcing debut with POW Entertainment for their Pride show, You'd Better Work, which I came up with the title for. Because I thought it was clever using drag queen terminology, also doubles for wrestling. And luckily, the owner of POW, Jimmy Blaze, and Mateo Valentine, who was producing the show, they both enjoyed the name too, so we went with it. And but I will not deny the fact that I was extremely nervous about hosting the show, because I've never done ring announcing. I've done like 3-minute, 5-minute segments in between matches. So this was my first time, and people were like, no, it's not. You're amazing. You killed it. I'm like, people were like, no, honestly, you killed it. So that made me feel good. And then of course, having my favorite Midwest ring announcer, Kirby Alexander, there, and he pulled me aside after the show, and he's like, you did the whole thing without any notes in the ring. You did the whole thing in character. And he gave me a big hug and said he was proud of me. So he's like, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that right now. So yeah,
Yeah,
thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, one of the greatest experiences of my life, truly, because, we had Effie Awesome Kong came and made an appearance. She came in and crowned the Queen of Pride. Who else? Monica Beverly Hills, one of the drag queens from RuPaul's Drag Race, came in and did a number during intermission, and then had a spot where she slapped one of the wrestlers, and they took a bump, and the drag queens, because there was 3 drag queens, like scared the wrestlers out of the ring. It was fantastic. It was really memorable, really exciting, and they already booked me for next year. They're like, June 2nd of 2024. You want to do it again? I was like, yes, I do.
Fuck yeah.
So who knows, where it's going to lead, what's going on, but I'm just happy to be here. But on that note, let's keep on the Pride train, the Pride horror train, and let's talk about what we've been watching this week. We always start with Ruthless Chris. Let's start off with you, Miss Killer Kelly. What you been watching, babe?
I watched Neon Demon 2016. This one is on Prime, written and directed by Nicholas Winding Refn. R-E-F-N.
Nicholas Winding Refn.
Refn. Okay, I didn't know how to pronounce that last name. But he did Drive.
Big fan of his movie Drive.
Yeah, yep, he did Drive, Hell Rising. But yeah, this follows a model. Her name's Jessie. She's 16. She's an aspiring model. And after her parents' death, she moves to LA to, pursue her modeling career. As soon as she gets there, people notice her. Like, she's got that thing. And, she befriends makeup artist Ruby and 2 models, Gigi and Sarah. I don't know if she's really befriending Gigi and Sarah. They're kind of bitches to her throughout the whole fucking thing. But they quickly become very jealous of her, and everybody notices she has this thing. She's the young girl on the scene, although she's 16. She says she's older because, modeling world. But yeah, the jealousy quickly ensues, and they, without giving too much away, because really it's just builds it all up. Basically they want what she has, and they are trying to figure out a way to consume it, I think, is the best way I could say. That's the most I can really say about this movie without giving away the plot line, but it does go somewhere. There is necrophilia in this movie. There's some cannibalism in this movie. It's quite gory. It's beautifully filmed. Keanu Reeves is also in it. He's like the guy that runs the apartment complex where Jessie's staying in town. He's like a real creep in this movie too. I kind of like him as
Breeze Reeves.
What?
Cool Breeze Reeves. That's what Keanu means. It's cool breeze in Hawaiian.
Oh, does it? Interesting. Yeah. Fun fact. But yeah, I mean, like I said, there's not a lot I can say about the storyline without giving it away. But this is a decent one. I'd give it about 3.5. Mainly because I would give it more, but the plot, it's more character development. It's very visceral as far as visually. But yeah. I mean, there are parts where you're like, okay, when's something gonna happen? But when shit does go down at the end, it's pretty profound to the movie. It all brings it all together. Have you guys seen this?
Yeah, I actually popped when you said that you watched this one. Yeah. I love this movie.
Yeah.
Like you said, the story isn't always the most linear or easy to follow, but the visuals are amazing. It's just visually stunning, and
it is.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. Is Neon Demons streaming anywhere?
Prime. Streaming on Prime.
Prime. And you said you gave it 3.5?
Yeah, I'd give it 3.5. I'd give it more, but like I said, there's parts the storyline gets a little confusing until it's all brought together at the end. But it's a decent movie. It's a solid flick for sure.
I definitely agree. I'd give it a 3.5 as well.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Chris? You've seen Neon Demon, right?
I have not, and actually I'm a huge fan of this director. I like all of his movies. Valhalla Rising, the Pusher films, really love Drive. A lot of people didn't like Because God Told Me To, or Only God Can Judge. I really liked Only God Can Judge. But I just haven't seen this, and I haven't seen that he has a TV series now as well that's supposed to be very good, and I just haven't got around to either of those, so I need to. I know I'd like it. I just haven't seen it because I'm such a big fan of everything else he's done.
Yeah, when you get a chance, definitely check it out. Like visually, just amazing, mind blowing stuff.
It is. It's very artsy.
Yeah,
it is a very artsy movie. I own it if you want to borrow it.
It's definitely
That's not Brian.
It's definitely more like visuals over storytelling. You know, it's got that giallo feel to it because of that.
It does.
But yeah, 3.5. Watch it on Amazon. Neon Demon, great queer horror. Ruthless Chris, Paging Ruthless Chris. What have you been watching, baby?
So I watched. I gave this one like kind of a. It was under the LGBTQ 2E section. I kind of just went in blind. It's called the KAOS Brief. KAOS is spelled KAOS. It's a found footage alien film. The reason it's called the KAOS Brief is it starts with, you remember when Anonymous was doing all that hacking and they put up those videos and it'd be the dude in the Guy Fawkes mask and it's like, we are Legion, we are Anonymous. Well, this group KAOS in this film is doing the same thing. And what they're saying is that they went through all the files that Snowden leaked and they found all these secret videos and that they were releasing these videos that the government didn't want people to see. And the video that they released is the found footage of this. It's a brother and sister and their boyfriends, respectively, go out to camping. They go camping in the woods. And the one brother, Skyler, is a vlogger. You know, he has like a YouTube channel. He films everything he does. He's like an influencer. And while they're out there, they hear a noise and they end up seeing lights in the sky, you know, alien lights. So when they wake up, there's all these rocks and stuff stacked up. So he goes and he releases the footage that he had just filmed over the weekend, and he starts getting all these weird messages like, they're not going to like you putting this out. You know, people don't like this. And it goes down like a kind of rabbit hole of like Men in Black and alien stuff and like implants. It has its moments, but all in all, it was a pretty mediocre found footage film. Better than most. If they would actually cut off the chaos part, like the faux anonymous thing, it would have been much better. Like, because it just didn't add anything to the film. But it wasn't that great. I'd give it a 2. There was some good ideas in it. There was definitely some cool scenes and some like cool things that they had pulled off that I had not seen before. But all in all, it was mostly just like lights and camera trickery than actually stuff going on screen.
Okay, well, what kind of star rating would you give this?
I gave it 2 on Letterboxd.
2 on Letterboxd, and it's streaming on Tubi if anybody wants to check out. And is KAOS what?
The KAOS Brief, and KAOS is spelled KAOS, from 2016 by J.P. Mandarino.
All right. Oh my goodness gracious gravy. That sounds like a wild trip indeed. Yeah, but I mean, my mind is blown because, you know, it's Pride Month and we have one of the coolest guests on, and Brandon Perras, part of the monster makeup squad that came out with Death Drop Gorgeous. He's got to be talking about that film along with their newest film, Saint Drago, that's doing the festival circuit right now. So I can't wait for that. I just want to get that out there. You know, my mind is spinning with how much excitement there is about that. Before I get into the first film I want to talk about, Kelly, have you seen this film or no?
I have not.
Okay, well then let's keep the terror train rolling. And the first film I'm going to talk about is a 1993 horror/thriller directed by Garth Maxwell and starring the one and only late, hats off to you, Alexis Arquette, called Jack B. Nimble. This is a very strange film. Wouldn't necessarily. It's hard to call it horror. There are definitely some very horrific scenes. Definitely a queer, or not even. It's hard to even call it queer or LGBTQ because the only thing that puts it under that banner is Alexis Arquette being in it, and because they never directly say, well, this person's gay. They never directly say that anybody is not straight. It's just sort of like, he's pretty. We see when he's a kid, he's hanging out with the neighbor boy. There's no direct he's gay. But that's okay. It's implied enough that you figure it out. But this film is about Jack and Dora. They are twins. They're abandoned by their parents as babies, desperate to find each other after years of adoption. Jack, his life was horrible. His family was sadistic hillbillies. Dora's life was a bit better. She was adopted by a well-off family. She was in private school, but she still didn't fit in because she had this psychic power where she could talk or at least send messages to her brother. And with her psychic power, like she constantly hears voices. And finally, like one day as an adult, there's another psychic person starts talking to her. It's really hard to explain a lot of the storyline. It makes more sense when you watch it. I really enjoyed it because it's from New Zealand, and I had never really heard about this film until it's one of Vinegar Syndrome's partner labels, Altered Innocence. They do a lot of queer genre films, and of course, I was interested because Alexis Arquette's in it, and there really isn't too much in the way of Alexis Arquette's films, and this one has an artistic slant to it, and it's definitely very bloody, and has that almost a Stephen King feel to it with the psychic powers, and like a fire starter. Shining, yes, yeah, a lot like The Shining. In that aspect. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, and it's streaming on Shudder. It's under their queer horror section. So it's also on AMC Plus. And yeah, that's about it. AMC Plus and Shudder. I think you can pay for it on Amazon Prime. But why pay for it if you've already got Shudder, right? Have either of you heard of this or seen it?
I have not.
I don't think so. I might have passed it up flipping through the queer horror on Shudder.
Yeah, definitely worth the watch. Yeah, I give it 4 stars. And if you got Shudder, give Jack B. Nimble a watch during Pride Month. But keeping this terror train rolling, baby. Killer Kelly, what you been watching, baby?
Oh, the next one I watched was awesome. This might be one of my more favorite. I'm just going to give it away because if you look at the cover, it kind of gives it away. Werewolf movies. It's called Good Manners. This is on Tubi. It's 2017. The movie is in Portuguese because it is a Brazilian movie from Sao Paulo. But this movie, it was awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It follows Anna. She's pregnant. Very pregnant. She needs a nanny. She's affluent. She's kind of rich and stuff. And she's single, so she's got nobody to help with the baby. She lives in this area where she doesn't really know anybody, and so she's hiring this nanny, and that's how she meets Clara. Clara comes in and applies, and at first she's not going to hire her, but Clara does calms her down when she kind of goes through these fits while she's pregnant, which has something to do with her baby. Anyway, Clara and Anna kind of fall in love as she's taking care of her, but Anna's baby is definitely not normal. It's growing way too fast. And like I said, she can't eat blood or meat or anything like that. And it's just, it's just bad. So, at one point, she has the baby brutally. That scene is pretty fucking. I was just glued to my TV, holy fucking shit. And then and then Clara is left to raise the baby. So the movie kind of cuts in the middle. It changes from it's weird because I've never seen a movie switch main characters and plot lines like this and still work the way this did. So then it goes, it kind of cuts into the child growing up. And I don't want to get too far into this. It is a werewolf movie. It's fucking fantastic. It's nothing I've ever seen with werewolves. The werewolf baby looks pretty cool. There's special effect, a lot of practical effects. The story in this is great, man. I just don't know what else I can say without being like, oh my god, dude, I'd give this 4.5, 5 for a werewolf movie. And it's weird because on IMDb they had a PG rating, and I'm like, no, that's not right. There's no way that's fucking right. You know? So I wouldn't go to it trusting that rating if you want to watch it with children, but I don't know what children would want to sit and watch a Portuguese movie anyway. So.
Right. That sounds awesome, though. It's called Good Manners.
It is awesome. I loved this movie. It is now in one of my more favorite werewolf movies.
Very, very cool.
Highly
I'll have to check that out. Chris, have you seen this one at all?
I've almost watched it a couple times. It was on Shudder for a while, and it has a really weird cover, which is like almost like a 60s cartoon of like a person and like a wolf holding hands.
Yeah, it looks
And,
like
like,
something that could be a Disney movie or rated PG. Go on. I'm
So
sorry.
I was always intrigued by it, you know, and, but they took it off Shudder, and I haven't thought about it since until she posted about it the other day. So excuse me, I haven't seen it, but I've always been curious.
I love it.
Very cool. Well, it sounds like we need to check out Good Manners as well as everybody else. No excuse not to. Chris, what you got for us, baby?
The next movie I watched is called Bit. It is a female vampire film. There's a lot going on in this movie. A lot more. Like after I watched the preview, I thought it was going to be a little more teen centric because they use a voiceover in the preview, and it makes it almost like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm a vampire, you know. And they do it just at the beginning and it just at the end, and I'm glad they did because that was like my least favorite part of the film. But what you have is a sheltered girl. She's going off to college, goes to LA to live with her brother for the first time away from her parents. And while she's out there, she runs into a group of female lesbian vampires. They turn her, and they have like a set of rules. It's very, there's a little bit of a parallel to Near Dark in this, but it's all like female. You know, like they're a tribe within a tribe. You know. This one had a lot more going on than I thought it was going to initially. I thought it was going to be a lot more shallow than it ended up being. There was some really great special effects, a lot of gore. Like the gore did not fuck around in this movie. Like I thought it was going to be. Honestly, I thought I was going to be like watching an updated version of The Craft. And what I got more was kind of a urban updated version of Near Dark. With even more going on to it. Like there's layers in this thing. I'm surprised I hadn't heard about this before this. It was much better than I expected to be. I had a blast with this film. The acting's great, the special effects are great. There's some cool action sequences, and it really keeps you on your toes because some things really happen out of nowhere. Like there's vampire hunters in this movie, and there's a sequence that like pops up really out of nowhere that you do not see coming, and it's very intense. And then there's a really cool flashback part that lasts like maybe like 15 minutes of the movie that was a whole lot of fun within itself, that almost felt like it was like mildly could have been a scene from like What We Do in Shadows, because like you could tell they were like poking a little fun at themselves with the male vampire character in it. One of the big rules is you do not turn males because they cannot handle the power of being a vampire anymore. So all the vampires are now female in the world, and that comes into play later as well. All in all, I really had a lot of fun with this movie. I'll definitely probably watch it again. It's pretty good. I gave it 3.5, but after like sitting with it and thinking about it, I'm probably going to bump that up to a 4, honestly.
Very cool. Yeah, no, I reviewed this when it first came out for Daily Grindhouse, and I think 2019 was a great time for this movie to drop because people were more politically aware, people were more politically conscious, and to have the main protagonist in this film be a transgender girl, I think that really hit with a lot of audiences, and it resonated with a lot of audiences having a female group of vampires, you know, showing a powerful imagery on screen. But I also think it's interesting that the writer and director of this film is a guy. You know, it was Brad Michael Elmore. I think that was in his name. If I'm looking at it right, maybe I got the.
I
Maybe
got
I got that.
Brad Michael Elmore.
Okay. Yeah, I met him once when his debut full length film, Boogeyman Pop, came out. And I don't want to put down anybody's film, of course, but I was not a fan of that movie. So he progressed his writing and filmmaking greatly between that one and Bit, in my opinion. Like, Bit is amazing, and I was so happy that to go from a movie that I didn't care for so much to a movie that blew my mind, and I thought it was just so smart, so well done, and it just dropped at such a right time. Trying to look it up, see what I gave it a million years ago when I watched it. A million years ago, as in like what, 4 years ago?
You gave it 4 stars.
Thank you. Yes, I gave it 4 stars. 4 stars, and yeah, it's definitely worth a watch. What's this streaming on?
Tubi.
There you go. You got no reason not to watch it.
Like every goddamn thing, best app on the planet, Tubi.
Yeah, absolutely. Great app, and you can see almost every film there is for free. But if you want to check out LGBTQ queer horror for June, or for any time for that matter, check out Bit. It's so well done, so smart, so poignant, and timely. And we're going to keep this train rolling. And speaking of female-centric films, I'm going to talk about one that I'm a big fan of, and I make people watch from time to time. And I tried to make this one of our feature films, but I'm going to talk about What Keeps You Alive. This was a film I saw. I'm not sure if it was on Netflix or what that it was on originally. It's now streaming on AMC Plus, which of course we know means that it's streaming on. It's probably streaming on Shudder as well. But
it is on Tubi as well.
Oh, and it's on Tubi. Very cool. But What Keeps You Alive is a wild survivalist horror film that is, the main characters in this film is a lesbian couple. They're in the mountains, so they're away from everybody, and there's betrayals, and they're attempting to celebrate their 1 year anniversary. But there's so many twists and turns, and trust issues come involved, and I just feel like it was so realistic and so well done, and the sexuality or the sexual orientation really didn't have so much to do with it, except to give it a unique perspective, because if it wasn't for them being a lesbian couple, it would just be like any other survivalist film. I mean, honestly, it probably would be less interesting to watch. I love What Keeps You Alive. I've watched it a bunch of times, and I always recommend it to people during Pride Month. If they hadn't seen it, they should watch it. It's and it's interesting that once again, Colin Minihan, a male director, or at least looks like a male director from his picture, doing this female-centric film, and it is so well done and so respectfully done that I can't recommend. You think I'd give it 5 stars, but I'm gonna go with 4.5 stars. That's what I got down. Have you guys seen What Keeps You Alive, and what do you think of it?
I don't think I have.
I have a copy on DVD actually. I bought it used from a video store from their used bin. I liked it. I didn't really like it as much as you did, just because I do think it treads similar to ground to a lot of other movies, and the only thing that does really make it unique is that it is from a lesbian point of view, as opposed to a man and a woman go camping and the same shit happens. It does have those parallels, but it is a very good film. It's very entertaining. I'd give it 3.
Fair enough. Absolutely. But yeah, if you want to check this out, it's streaming for free on Tubi and AMC Plus. And if it's on AMC Plus, I'm sure it's on Shudder. But
keep it sponsored by Tubi. What do we got to do to get sponsored by Tubi?
Dude, right?
Tubi.
I think we need another To Be or Not To Be episode.
Yeah, we should do another To Be or Not To Be.
Hey, I'm down. I'm down to clown, baby. But let's keep this train rolling. Let's keep it going down the tracks. Those gay tracks. LGBTQ pride. Killer Kelly Miller. One last round. Will you please serve me up with what you've been watching, baby?
I have been hooked on this series lately, and they just dropped season 2, and it's actually starting to gain some momentum. This is From. I don't know if you guys have watched From yet, but I've been watching season 2, which brings in some LGBTQ characters into the second season. So I was like, hey, let's talk about it this week.
I don't know if you guys have been watching it. Who told you about that show, Kelly?
Well, have you been watching season 2?
Yes.
Oh, okay then. All right, if you're not familiar with the show, it basically takes place in this town. Nobody knows how the fuck they got there. They're all driving down the road from different places, all from different places, where they come across this log in the road. And, they can't move the log, so they turn around and just loop this town, and they can't get out of this fucking town. So they just always end up the same place, the diner. And, the problem with this town is when nightfall happens, there are these monsters that come out, very vampire-like, but not really vampires, more demons, I guess. They're very like happy-looking, smiley people, but they will rip your fucking faces up. They'll rip your guts out. Like their thing is, they like to torture you to death or make people watch you being tortured to death. Or they're fucking scary. They're fucking scary. So in season 2. I'm just going to update a little bit. There's a bus that arrives of people, and it kind of changes the whole fucking dynamic of the town. Because for one, there wasn't very, very many supplies to begin with. For two, fucking some of these people are assholes, and it's hard enough to deal with one person's reaction of coming into this town. Like, how do we get out? Let alone a whole fucking bus full. This season just thickened the plot line even more. I feel like it answered less questions than you had in the first and just added more, but I'm fucking here for it, man. Ever since Yellow Jackets is over now, like, this is my new show. So, highly recommend. You can watch season 1 on Prime, but I think you have to have the MGM app now.
Paramount Plus.
Yeah, MGM Plus.
Paramount
Plus. What?
Paramount Plus.
It's on Paramount Plus too?
Yeah. Well, no, that's what it's on.
No, it's on MGM. But you can get, I think they got a deal right now where it's like $2 a month for like the next 3 months. And it's worth it just to pay the $2, watch the whole series and cancel. But yeah, highly recommend this series. I gotta give it like a 4.5 so far. I mean, I don't know if it's gonna take a hard nosedive into the 3rd season, but so far so fucking good.
Yeah, no, it sounds awesome. Chris, from what you've been saying, it sounds like you've been watching this as well. Could you give us your thoughts on From?
Yeah, From it's a very good show. I actually covered it on this show back when it was with us and Pondo, and that's how Kelly got hip to it. And it was like a very like little known show at the time, but it's really gotten some momentum now. Mm-hmm. And like now that season 2 is going out, you can tell that they're dumping more money into it because they have a bigger cast, special effects are better, all that. The only thing that sucks is apparently that the season might not end right now because of this writer's strike that's going on in Hollywood.
Oh, that's probably why the new episode didn't come out on Saturday. I was waiting for it. I was like, come on, where is it?
It's that and another show I really enjoy, which is a horror-centric show called Evil, are suffering the same fates as where all the writers are on strike, which means the seasons aren't going to end, which makes me wonder if when the strike is over, if they're really even going to pick it back up or if it's going to be done. Like this could be like a Carnival situation all over again. But yeah, I highly recommend it. It's a really good show, but it sucks that it's kind of stuck in limbo right now.
I think Yellow Jackets has the same thing going on too.
Uh-huh. Everything nothing's being made right now. Everybody's on strike.
How many stars would you give this, Chris?
So far I'd give it 4. Mm-hmm. It's hard to tell with like it's like Lost, where like if they fuck the ending up or if they don't stick the landing, it's gonna suck. Yeah. But what they're setting up right now is really cool and a lot of fun to watch.
Very cool. Yeah, I've only seen like the first 3 or 4 episodes of the first season, but I'm thoroughly invested. It feels very Stephen King-esque with all the mythos and the creatures and everything that brought to mind Stephen King's work immediately. And his sons for that matter. So yeah, and I'm fully on board with it, and I can't wait to catch up with you guys. But I don't have Paramount Plus and don't plan on getting it, so I'll wait until they dump the second season onto Amazon because I'm still going through the first season anyway. But yeah, 4 stars definitely. Let's keep it going. Ruthless Chris, what you got next for us, baby?
So I finally got around to watching the 1980 William Friedkin movie Cruising, starring Al Pacino. Cruising tells the story of an undercover cop who has to go deep into the world of S&M and the gay clubs of New York to hunt a serial killer that is preying on the gay men of New York. He's tying them up and stabbing them up, or he's chopping their bodies up and throwing them in the harbor, burning them up, doing all kinds of wild shit. So they put him undercover. He has no experience in this world, and he, you learn as he does, as he, goes and tries to infiltrate and figure out who's actually doing this stuff. This was a very good film. My only complaint was I felt it was just a little long. I thought they could shave some time off it. It's almost 2 hours, and a lot of those 2 hours is literally just like watching Al Pacino walk down the street, or stuff like that. It was really cool. It had a bit of a giallo vibe, but more in the William Friedkin's a legendary director. He made The Exorcist. He made so many great movies. What was it? The Guardian we were talking about, the crazy tree nanny one that no one likes, but German I loved. He made Killer Joe. Killer Joe. After you watch Killer Joe, you never look at fried chicken the same way again. He's made he's made great films. Live and Die in L.A. He made Bug. He made Sorcerer, which is a fantastic fucking film, and it's not about wizardry shit. It's about military, like taking a bus full of napalm across all these crazy bridges and trying to get lost alive. But the guy makes fantastic films. They're always very different. But they always have his style under it, and this is no different. What's really cool about it is it definitely fills you up with the world that it's in. Like, it feels like authentic, and it feels like gritty, and like it feels like they've teleported you to like a different world that like maybe someone like me is not really familiar with, and they really like stick you in it. And there's a lot of good murder scenes. There's a lot of good deaths. What's crazy is a lot of the little bit players turned out to be like bigger actors later. Like, one of the police detectives is turned out to be Ed or Al Bundy from Married with Children. They go into a boutique, and Powers Booth is the guy behind the counter. What's the name? Joseph Zito from Maniac Cop, and he's like a dirty cop who's like shaking down all these drag queens on the strip. It was really interesting to see the ensemble cast. There was a lot of really cool ideas and a lot of cool stuff going on. My only complaint was it's just a little long, especially at the end. Not to give anything away, I'm not going to spoil it, but once he does get on the trail of who he thinks is the right person, there's like scene after scene of like him just like watching this apartment complex like day after day after day, and it feels like a lot of them are the same and cycle the same way, and they could have like narrowed that down a bit, but it was very good. Al Pacino was great in this fucking thing. It was very cool to see. Like, I'm so used to old Al Pacino now. It's really nice to see him young, like go back to this or like Dog Day Afternoon or something like that, or First Godfather. Young Pacino is like, doesn't even feel like the same person, So I had a lot of fun with this. I gave this thing a 4. I really enjoyed it. My only complaint was you could have tightened it up just a little bit.
Very cool. Yes, I'm a huge fan of Cruising. I remember seeing it. I woke up early for a cross country meet when I was in high school, and it was on like butt o'clock in the morning on HBO, and it blew my mind seeing this imagery. Because I wasn't out yet, and it was funny to find out that the gay community at the time protested this movie so heavily,
Yeah.
and when it first came out, and you know, I personally think that they protested it so heavily because it was so realistic, and you don't want to see the dark side of that. You don't want to, when you're trying to get equal rights, you don't want to show off the dark side of things, even if it is real. So I understand it, but now it's hailed as like an LGBTQ film classic. You know what I mean? And so I think that's really interesting that there was that paradox in how it's viewed.
Yeah.
Similarly to like we talked about last week, Freddy's Revenge, how it's like the way it's viewed has totally changed over the years. Another interesting fact that I love about this film is that leather bars, even though they're dirty and slimy and scummy, they still play the same music that regular gay bars do. They still play the same dance music and disco music. And so to make this film feel dirtier, they had the Germs record a couple songs for the soundtrack. So they had a punk rock and a rock and roll soundtrack to this movie to make it feel dirtier. And I'm Germ. I love the Germs. Germs are one of my favorite punk rock bands of all time. So I definitely I popped when I heard them on the soundtrack. I give it 4.5 stars all day, every day. Have you seen Cruising, Kelly?
I'm familiar with it, but I don't think I have, man.
Not to interrupt, but I did enjoy the soundtrack so much that I bought it immediately when the movie was done. I went on Discogs and they had a bunch of old used copies, and it was like $1.72 plus shipping. I bought it immediately. It was such a great soundtrack. It reminded me almost like the Repo Man soundtrack, like not as good as the Repo Man soundtrack, but it's in that wheelhouse. And it had like a really weird funk band I really liked. I've never heard anyone even talk about, called Mutiny on it. So yeah.
I know there's a song, I can't remember who it's by, that's used on the soundtrack, but it's also used on the soundtrack of Quentin Tarantino's Death Proof. And it's like the only two places I've ever heard the song. And I can't remember the name of the song, so that doesn't help. But
I think
like
it's
you
called
said,
Spy Boy or something.
Something like that. Amazing soundtrack. And great movie, great giallo inspired thriller horror film. If you're looking for a slasher or something that you haven't seen this Queer Pride Month, definitely check out Cruising. Is it streaming anywhere, Chris?
HBO or Max. I forgot that they dropped the HBO. It's on Max. Most William Friedkin's and movies are on there. So
very cool. Very, very cool. I got one last movie to talk about before we get Brandon on here to talk about Death Drop Gorgeous. I was tongue tripping off of that. Death Drop Gorgeous.
Two very different movies.
Yeah, Saint Drago. But before we get Brandon on here to talk about those films, I'm going to talk about one last movie really quick. It is called The Last Thing Mary Saw. This is a period piece that reminded me a lot of The Witch. I mean, of course, the verbiage used and the lingo used is a lot easier to understand than The Witch. But it's about like two young girls who fall in love with each other and are persecuted by a religious family, and they're tortured and vocal cord, but then they use witchy stuff and they murder. There's a lot of murdering going on. There's a lot of gore going on. I liked it. I thought it was smart, and it's cool to see a queer horror period piece. Another short synopsis of the film. It's a daughter in a strict religious family is interrogated after the death of her family's uncanny matriarch. The cast is filled with people that you're like, oh, I know that person from somewhere. That face looks familiar. And it's one of the main characters is the girl from the Orphan movies, and it's really stacked with a cast, and I just thought it was really interesting to have a period piece like that. And then Judith Roberts is in this film, who played the old lady in Dead Silence, and uniquely enough, she was also in Eraserhead. So I was pretty blown away by this. and you can tell there wasn't a lot of budget to work with, but they still did the best. I'm sure whatever budget they had was spent on this cast alone. But I gave it 3.5 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's streaming on Shutter, also AMC Plus. But yeah, that's about it. But if you go in the queer horror section of Shutter, you can find it there. That's where I found it. Have you guys seen The Last Thing Mary Saw?
I started watching this a few months ago, but I put it on it was late at night and I was going to bed and I fell asleep halfway through and never picked it back up. But I liked what I've seen so far.
I have seen parts of it. So, as you guys know, Shudder does a thing where you can just put it on what they just curate and play live, they have their own TV service. And a lot of times when I don't know what to watch, or if I'm busy, if I'm going to be doing laundry or doing something, I'll just let play whatever it's playing. And for an hour one day, it was What Mary Saw, and I didn't really catch a lot of what was going on. I've seen bits and pieces, but not enough to really have an opinion. It looked interesting.
Very cool. Yeah, I enjoyed it. So 3.5 stars, streaming on Shutter and AMC Plus. Now that we're done talking about what we've been watching, let's get Brandon Perras on here to talk about this queer filmmaker and his wonderfully queer horror exploitation films. Let's go, Brandon Perras. Oh, did I just say let's go, Brandon Perras?
Let's go. Oh, Jesus.
I'm horrible. I know it. Happy Pride, everybody.
And now for our feature presentation.
Goodness gracious gravy. I'm about to go crazy because we've got a special guest for Pride Month, director extraordinaire, filmmaker extraordinaire, making some of the greatest, queerest movies out there in the indie scene right now, part of the Monster Makeup team. It's Brandon Perras, everybody. Real Vile. Please welcome Brandon Perras.
Hey, man.
How you doing, Brandon?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good.
Great. It's awesome to have you here.
Awesome
For
to be
the people out there in Real Vile land that might not know you as well, could you give them a little background on who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I'm part of the Monster Makeup team. Moved to Providence back in 2003 with a band I was playing in, and then just kind of did that for a little while, and then jumped into filmmaking about 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago at this point. Just been doing it on nights and weekends, and just kind of just pushing forward with some of the screenplays we've been writing. It's been fun.
Well, you're doing an amazing job, and I'm so glad to see, queer horror being so gritty. You know what I mean? Death Drop Gorgeous is campy and it's fun, but at the same time, you're showing gay subculture warts and all. You know what I mean? And you're showing different aspects of it. I don't think I've ever seen a queer indie film with a scene at a hardcore show.
Yeah. There was a lot of good music in that movie. That is one thing I kept noticing.
Oh, thank you. Providence has just an awesome music scene. The whole reason we moved to Providence, my whole band moved from Vermont, just down here. Just has a legendary noise rock scene. You got Six Finger Satellite and Lightning Bolt and Airborne Radar from here, from back in the day. And this kind of just grew from there. We had a really big thriving warehouse scene, just these all these artists kind of commandeer these warehouse spaces and just turn them into these amazing venues. Just a really cool scene. Just the amount of bands and local talent we have, it'd just be a crime not to incorporate some of this stuff into our film.
Yeah, were the bands that you used in Death Drop Gorgeous, were those local bands? Yeah,
I'd say the majority are local. Drop Dead, Human Beast, Unicorn Hard On, which is now Val Martino. Who else is in there? Anxious Wave and all that stuff's local. A lot of great stuff from here.
Nice.
I've actually seen Lightning Bolt a few times. They've come through town here. They like to not set up on the stage. They'll set up in the corner by the jukebox, and they get everyone around them over there, and then just provide chaos. It's always a fun show if Lightning Bolt comes to town.
And in their old age, they've been playing on stages now. So when you hear the music actually mixed, it's awesome. I like seeing bands on the floor. It's way more intimate, but last time we saw them, those guys getting older, but they were up on a stage. I think Brian's kids were running around behind them, but hearing them actually mic'd and mixed, it sounded even more brutal than usual. So it's kind of fun to see that.
I've never heard that version of them.
Well, Death Drop Gorgeous is super gory, and I love that you didn't skimp on the gore, you didn't skimp on the violence, and I've seen my share of indie LGBTQ films, and I've seen my share of even indie queer horror films, and none of them that I can think of have that level of gore that you stuck with, and you just kept pounding away at it. And I wanted to congratulate you on sticking to that brutality, because you know there's homos like yourself and homos like me that want to see that brutality, they want to see that fucking gore, and you killed it, literally and figuratively. And I just noticed rewatching it before my mom called. You played that bartender in Death Drop, and it's so funny to me because I'm from the East Coast, and hearing that accent, that really harsh accent, had me laughing.
What part of East Coast are you from?
I grew up in New Hampshire.
Oh, nice. Oh, awesome.
Yeah, like northern New Hampshire, like Berlin, New Hampshire. So we're 69 in Vermont. We probably grew up like opposite each other.
Yeah, I grew up like northern Vermont, so like half hour south of the Canadian border, but New Hampshire's beautiful.
I'm guessing you're probably a little younger than me, though. So,
oh, I'm 41. I don't know.
A little bit. Then I'm turning 45 in 2 days.
Well, you look younger than me. I don't know.
Oh shucks! Now you're just trying to get in my pants.
Like one of the things like when we made Death Drop is we're really inspired by 80s slashers. And I think like some of these 80s slashers, you know, plots are paper thin. It's a lot of like boobies and gore, but I think there's like a rewatchability and an immortality to that. And I think like it blows my mind when I'm seeing modern slashers like the last couple of decades, all these off-screen kills or boring kills, and you have like the paper thin kind of wacky plots there that aren't going to really sustain themselves throughout the years. I mean, look at all these 80s movies. They're still shown all over the country. Like there's still nights dedicated to this stuff. So we took cues and notes from that. And like one thing we'll never do is skimp on practical effects and gore. I mean, that's just, you know, part of the territory. I'm just still baffled when horror movies don't do that. But I don't know. I mean, it's, you know, it's not for everybody.
So besides go Kelly.
I was gonna say, I watched this movie. I watched it probably like a year and a half ago, maybe for the first time, and I just rewatched it. And like the main thing I remember from the first time is the fucking glory hole scene, the glory hole meat grinder scene. That one's just memorable. Gore.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah, those things like. I'm terrified of glory holes. I don't know, I don't know what the fuck's on the other side. I mean, when you'll be on like Grindr and Scruff and get these messages, and it's just like a picture of like a sheet with a hole in it or some like weird homemade glory hole thing. So we kind of kept like all the kills in the movie, like things we've seen on the apps and stuff. But I mean, you know, people are into that, so go for it. Not for me.
Oh yeah.
And besides like the 80s slasher films, American slasher films, with the Black Glove Killer and the masks and stuff, it really had a strong Italian giallo feel. Were you influenced by that as well?
Yeah, so what we wanted to do is we wanted to showcase like the nightlife of like the drag scene as like almost like this grandiose, like just hyper colorful. It's almost like they're like hallucinating like that, just like the you know, the vibrance, the elegance of the whole thing, when in actuality it's at like a club and a bar. But like it's almost like this fun delusion everyone's having. But then during the day we wanted to kind of be like drab and gray, like show like the doldrums of like full-time job, like work week, and then like at night is like when you come to life. So like using like the giallo vehicle as like, you know, being able to like blast the screen with a bunch of colors and set pieces and have the gloves just kind of I feel like those two just kind of played off each other well. Just, you know, and those movies are gorgeous too. I go back to some of those, even some like the really boring ones, like the lowbrow ones that you don't really ever want to watch. But just like if you go into it just looking at just the cinematography and the colors, they're fucking gorgeous. Like I don't know, there's a lot of really cool stylization back from the 70s and 80s when they were doing that stuff.
Yeah, I could definitely see that influence in this one. Like the colors in this, that is one thing I was going to mention. It was gorgeous. And it did look like a bar scene now that you say that, like nightlife, you know?
Yeah.
The other thing I noticed is like when you did the interiors, especially at like Gloria Hole's house, like it had almost like a John Waters vibe. Like with like the 1950s, like a lot of the or pinks and greens and like kitsch kind of thing going on, along with the giallo lighting, so that it kind of gave a very interesting offbeat feel, you know.
Mhm.
We totally lucked out too, because like my character Tony, like the bar owner, he's like obviously like mafia adjacent. It's a very like geographical horror movie. It takes place in Providence, just like it's kind of almost niche that we're like giving hints to the mafia and giving hints to like all that stuff. So that's like how our city is, but like that kitchen is like the most like Italian Portuguese kitchen possible. So it's like perfect for like having this in the film with like with Gloria and like Chris's character and stuff. But it was pretty awesome find. It was actually Chris's boyfriend at the time when we were filming that scene, and they had broken up like a week prior to filming.
Oh shit.
Like we're like, did we lose the house? But like they worked it out. But like if you get the DVD on the outtake reel, you can see Chris having to redo lines a million times. She's like on the verge of like breaking down time. Kind of sad, but kind of funny.
Oh.
Now, with you being in P-Town and John Waters is being in P-Town, and this definitely has a John Waters feeling to it throughout the film. Have you guys crossed paths? Do you know if he's seen Death Drop Gorgeous?
I don't know. We're trying to get it to him. So we're down in Providence. So P-Town's a little bit further north than us. It's about like 2 hours away. But I did see him in P-Town once. He went by on his bike. And I was like, oh my God, it's John Waters. He turned around and like gave me the dirtiest look. But I've heard he's like a really nice guy. But like we've been trying to somehow get our movies to him. We had a couple of friends that know him and like hang out with him. We've been giving them DVDs, but I don't think that they've ever made. I think our middlemen have failed us and never made their way to him. But he is there all the time. So we're hoping that one of these days we'll cross paths.
Very cool. I was just wondering, how did the Monster Makeup collective or crew, the filmmaking crew, get to be? How did that become a thing?
Sure. So when I moved to Providence, I met this girl Vicky. She's like one of my close friends. Ended up being Chris Delpy's sister. So we were at her house one night, just like talking, and we were making, we're talking about like how those sex apps were just meant for serial killers. Like it's gay men or all men in general, like just miss a lot of red flags when they're horny and like will just put themselves in these like really fucked up precarious situations. So we're kind of like talking about like modeling a slasher off of some of those sex apps. And a year later, we had forgotten this idea, and then I ended up becoming friends with Mike, the other director, and he became a roommate. But he was like, "Why don't we make this into a film and like add more to it?" So we started meeting up at a bar and like kind of like constructing the screenplay. And then my boyfriend Ryan jumped on, and Wayne, the lead, jumped on too. So we just kind of constructed the screenplay. And then from there, just kind of started working on projects either like together or individually. I know Chris has a podcast he's working on about his the previous haunted house he used to live in New Hampshire. I've been writing books on the side, which are kind of bring in some Monster Makeup. And then like with Saint Drogo too, just kind of just keeping that going with this whole crew. We added Kevin, our cameraman, to the crew too, so he's now involved. But yeah, it's been kind of just like our little like Rhode Island collective of just weirdo people making horror.
Well, I was watching that Anxious Wave video that you posted last night on Twitter. Was that before, after, or how? When were you making music videos?
So that was between Death Drop and Saint Drogo. I had a chunk of time, so I wasn't really doing anything. I wanted to keep the film stuff going, and they'd asked me to make a couple music videos for them. So they wanted a retro splatter Halloween thing, and that's like right up my alley. So kind of got together with them, told them what I was going to do, and they're like, just go ahead and do it, and bang that out. So it's been fun. I made another music video for them too that involved a lot of Mylar and fireworks, which was fun, but.
Very cool. Did you think that the horror community was going to be so receptive to Death Drop Gorgeous as they have been? Like, I mean, I don't. It went to Shudder pretty quickly, which that's the biggest horror centric streaming service that there is. How did that come about?
So we were making this thing. We just thought it was gonna be like a YouTube classic. We had no idea. So when we started filming, the main character, Gloria Holt, was doing such a good job on set. I was like, I think we have to kind of like up our game and like take this one more serious. So we started kind of like getting better about like framing shots and just like bringing our A game to the table. Because our cast and crew and our actors are doing such a fucking good job. So we kind of were like, hey, what? Maybe we can like push this thing and see how far we can get. Like try some horror festivals. We had no idea we'd end up on Shudder. That was such a fluke, weird situation. Mike had contacted Sam and was like, "Hey, you want to watch your movie?" Sam watched it and loved it, and messaged us, was like, "Hey, we want to get you guys on Shudder." So yeah, we had no idea that was going to happen. That was kind of a weird accident, but we're stoked on it.
Well, it's a beautiful accident, because now everybody's seen it, and I'm sure there are a lot more eyes on you and Monster Makeup in general, and the wonderful queer films you're making. But Saint Drago right now is doing the festival circuit. and we were lucky enough to get a screener of it. And boy, oh boy, your first movie, Death Drop Gorgeous, is this campy, over the top slasher. And you almost did like a whole, what would you say, 180? I'm bad at math. 360, whatever that is.
I would
Two
say
skateboards.
360.
360? Okay.
I'd say it's a 360.
360, yeah. Going in this whole sort of almost folk horror, Lovecraftian tale of lust and body horror. How did you switch gears so drastically?
So the collective of Monster Makeup, it's the five of us. We all have different tastes in horror, but Mike and I are more into like the darker folk horror, fantasy horror kind of stuff. So we always wanted to make something like that. So during COVID, we written 2 screenplays. We wrote one called Queen of the Rats, which is going to be our third film, which is a little bit, it's like in between Saint Drogo and Death Drop. It's not as like bleak and dark, but it's like a little bit more like I guess I'd say like Green Room meets like Little Shop of Horrors meets Sopranos, if that makes any sense. Okay. So we these things. So like we thought that Drogo was like a minimal enough of a script that we could like bang it out in a year, but it never goes how you plan. It took us way longer. But so Mike had an idea. He wanted to film in P-Town in the off season, and then I was like, oh, let's make like a gross ass folk horror, and I wrote the story for it. And then Mike put the dialogue to the film, and we ended up making it. So it was a really small cast and crew. We did during COVID, so it was wild. So we like saved all the group scenes for like when you take the mask off and hang out with people again. But it was a lot of just like a crew of like 5 or 7 people going up to P-Town, staying in motels, and just like going out on the beaches and filming, or just going around town and filming. So just like Death Drop, we wore a lot of hats. There was a lot of like, even like when we're acting on screen, we're still moving lights around. We're still like worrying about shot composition. It was a lot, but it was fun. So
very cool.
An emphasis on like artistic shots in there, especially like with the opening with the, I don't want to get too like, because it's not out for people to watch yet. Yeah. I don't want to get like too into, but like, like with the flowers and the fire and the robes and all that, like it definitely, it went from the kitsch camp vibe to more like a more of like a art piece, and it's really interesting to see that flip,
So like our friend had told us that that David Cronenberg will write like a 60-page script because his movies are very visual and stuff too. So we kind of like took that advice, and like when we wrote Death Drop, our script was way too fucking long, and like we had so many like storylines branching off of shit that like we had to like curtail that down. It kind of did a number on our movie. It was our first movie. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. So for this one, we want to be like as streamlined as possible and like, give ourselves some wiggle room. So we knew this was gonna be a very visual movie. So we kind of like, we just wrote like a 70-page script and just kind of, took that with us. And we really wanted to like, showcase some visuals. Our cameraman had some really nice equipment. He's and him and Ryan kind of worked together on like crafting those scenes and making it like visually stunning too. We want it to be like really surreal. We want it to be almost like dreamlike and just like terrifying and creepy. Want to keep it gory too, but yeah.
The gore was definitely there, but it was a little more subdued. Like instead of being throughout, it was big punches as opposed to throughout it. Like like it was more. It felt like it meant something more when it happened.
Yeah. So all the flowers and the gore, like everything that happens, like there's allegorical meaning to it too. So the character Saint Drogo, a lot of his folklore, he's actual real saint too. So like with the growth on his side and who he is as a person, like what he's a saint of, like what the flowers mean, the actual deaths themselves all kind of connect into like Catholic mythology, and it kind of connect to the Saint Drogo himself too. So all like little fun little Easter eggs and shit in there too.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to speak a little bit about the cinematography and the score too. It immediately brought to mind like Jaredowski and Eggers, like how bleak and gray it is, but then also how dreamlike it is. And were either of those two influences on like how you shot this?
No, we were kind of like, I think our biggest influences for this one were, I guess like more like Wicker Man-y, Rosemary's Baby kind of stuff.
I can see that.
Yeah. I do love Jaredowski though. He's fantastic. We kind of just went for it. I think we're just like the off season in P-Town's right on the national shoreline. It's just gorgeous. And like, I think like in the wintertime, it's automatically just like cinematic, like wherever you are, just like the plant life and the ocean, like it's how gray everything is and how quiet everything is. It's like no matter like what you film there, it looks really beautiful. So we kind of use that to our advantage too, because like with Death Drop, like everything was interior. So we had to set up a lot of those scenes, and it took a really long fucking time. Some of it's cinematic, some of it's kind of, it's like DIY shit. But yeah, I think like P-Town itself just lends itself to looking pretty on film. So we just kind of just let the background and the environment kind of speak for itself when we're filming.
Did you have a lot of H.P. Lovecraft in the back of your mind when you were writing this? Because it definitely came through on the screen. I
think Mike definitely did. The only thing I know about, I'm really bad. I know like all the H.P. Lovecraft films. I never read any of his works.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. There's definitely some like some From Beyond-y little. So that teratoma at the end looks like that. The From Beyond monster at the end. But you definitely want to have some kind of like old god like kind of creature, like whether even if it is from like Catholic mythology and folklore to it is definitely like Lovecraftian. Like these are things that are outside of a realm of understanding. So there's definitely some Lovecraftian vibes for sure.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, with the drug use and stuff, and I've seen similar themes in other films or TV shows with the drug use in P-Town and in the off season. Is how I've never been there myself. How prevalent is this? Like, is this like based on real life? Is this based on any sort of true stories that you've heard or witnessed?
Yeah, so Mike had an ex at the time that was he was going there in the off season to go see him, and like it wasn't his ex that was doing it, but there was a really big like opioid issue out there with like pharmaceuticals and with heroin and fentanyl for a while. So like off season there was like pretty bleak and pretty dark. But even like when things are in full swing, like the gay culture is just riddled with every drug you can imagine. Some fun, some not fun, some very dangerous. So a little bit of commentary on that too. So we kind of tied that in like with the Eucharist as well too. Like so like when if I don't want to give anything away, but like with as you see at the end, like what the teeth are used for, is kind of just a little play on that too.
Yeah, I love that. I thought
give away that end.
What's that, Chris?
But we definitely don't want to give away that end.
No, not at all. Like we're trying to tap.
I want to talk about it so bad, but
I know.
Yeah,
because that ending is a gut punch, and it's amazing. It's so. One last thing I really wanted to say about it is that I loved the personally, of course, I love the bear orgy scene where like you don't see any dong, but it's really freaking erotic. It's really sexy. I
wish you could read the original script. It was the original script was a lot dirtier, but we had to kind of tone that down because Amazon, if they catch it, for some reason we end up on Amazon, they'll sometimes boot you if you show dick. You can show a dick unattached from a body, so if you cut someone's dick off and get a shot of it on the floor, that's fine. But once it's attached to a human being, it's considered pornographic. So that's
Amazon shows so much dick, though.
I know, right? I've seen so much dick on Amazon. I don't know.
Like The Boys, there's so much dick in The Boys.
I think it's either like dick or like erect dick is something you can't show. Like it's weird because our distributor
is nervous get away with flaccid.
Yeah,
maybe that's it.
Like I think flaccid's fine. I think the second you get a little bit of blood in there, then you get yourself in trouble.
I know the feeling though. Like I just wrote my latest short story for St. Rooster Books, and it was called "Less Talk, More Rock," and it's about like this otherworldly creatures inhabiting a bathhouse, and like everything I'm writing, I'm sitting down at the computer. I'm just like, come, dicks, butts, cock, dicks, come, butts, blood, guts, blood, dick, and then I'm reading it before I send it off to the publisher. I'm just like, hold on, this doesn't need so many dicks, butts, comes, blood. Maybe take out a few of those butts, dicks, comes, and bloods. So there was more dicks, comes, bloods, and fucks, huh?
But some people understand excess dick and cum and blood. You never know. There might be a market for both.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, our last guest was Fred Vogel, right?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with his work?
Well,
did the August Underground?
Holy shit! Yeah, those are fun.
yeah, and it's interesting because his latest film, which he's distributing himself, was completely different than all the no budget or low budget torture stuff, and it is really like more cerebral. And it's interesting to see a filmmaker like that progress. And now we're talking to you, and you're going from a kitschy, campy slasher to a folk horror film, and so it's cool seeing filmmakers progress or change and like be able to do more than one thing, But I also liked about Saint Drago is carrying over some of the same cast members. It almost felt like you're creating a world, even though it's very like John Waters always uses similar cast members and stuff. It's people people you want to work with, but it almost felt like you were creating a world. You know what I mean with your two films. Was that your intention at all?
Oh yeah. The third one too that we're doing this, like it's a lot of the same people too. It was kind of like we want to. There's really no rules with filmmaking. I think a lot of filmmakers get caught up in like, oh, I'm supposed to do A, B, and C. Like, you really don't fucking have to. These are all just standards that were created, most like Hollywood standards. Like, like look at like a movie like Tangerine. They filmed that on iPhones. It was non-actors. Like, I just wish people would get out of their heads a little bit and just like, fuck your audience. Like, do what you want to do. Like, make your movie, get it out there. You don't have to follow the rules. So like with what we're doing, it's like we have a lot of non-actors. We do things very unconventionally. Like with Drogo, we're not doing opening credits. Like we're a bunch of nobodies. No one knows us. Why are we having opening credits? Like there's all these things that like you can do now. So like creating our own little universe of like weirdo Providence people is that's what we want to do. I don't know. I think I hope more people are starting to kind of like get privy to that too. Like there's free editing software online now. You can film shit on iPhones. Like you don't need to like follow these rules and standards. I hope people like run with that and make cool shit. There's probably so much awesome shit out there we haven't even seen because people are so afraid to like get themselves out there. And like, even like Letterboxd too, like people are fucking brutal on Letterboxd. I think people are afraid of like those criticisms. Like everyone's a fucking movie critic now. I mean, we're all guilty of it. I mean, I've done it before too, but like, I think like I personally have like toned stuff back when I say there now or how I rate films. But I think like, I know I'm hoping that there's like an upheaval of this shit and people just start making whatever they want and get it out there.
Mm-hmm.
A man who makes the worst films on earth is the most savage person on Letterboxd I've ever seen, and that's Uwe Boll. If you've never followed him on Letterboxd, it's the funniest shit you'll ever see in your fucking life. Just look him up on Letterboxd. It's just his name. He is a complete and utter savage to every single movie, and a pervert. And then like he even like puts in like reviews of his own film, so like talks about them like they're the best things, and it's just hilarious that like someone like Uwe Boll.
I did enjoy his Assault on Wall Street ones. Those were like really fun. I was kind of hoping that someone would be inspired.
The Rampage.
I'm allowed to say that.
Real vile, you can say whatever the fuck you want.
You ever see those with Dominic Purcell? He just goes and shoots at Wall Street insurance companies. You both
one of his newer films?
No, they're like maybe like a decade ago.
Okay.
They're pretty fucking wild. I'm surprised they like got out there and got made, but I hope they inspire people.
Well, you had that Rampage one where he just like went and shot up an entire town.
Oh, that's
the third one they shot up the White House.
Yeah.
It is wild.
So Fred Vogel, is that true that he works for like special effects like HBO now, right? Or something like that? Or like Netflix?
He had made mention that he was working on a set, but he's about to have surgery because what do you say, fell off a ladder while doing lighting on a movie he was working on? So he has like a broken leg and he's going into surgery in a few days.
I finally saw all three of the August Undergrounds like last year. My friend had the last one I hadn't seen on DVD, and I finally saw it. It's something. I feel like if you're gonna go dark and go splatterpunk, just fucking do it. I don't hold back. And they like job well done. Those movies are disgusting. My boyfriend was getting like left the room. He was so grossed out. He's like please shut this off. But yeah,
those were some of the few movies I owned where like I would be choosy on who I would show them to or like watch them in front of. And normally I'd watch what the fuck ever, but it'd be like, oh, they're coming over, turn this shit the fuck off. We don't need to try to explain this to them.
Are you guys Brian Pollan fans? What's that? Brian Pollan. So he's like a local, but yeah, he's got he has a new one coming out too. But Septic, that one that came out last year, is like it's pretty fucking brutal. It's like modern splatterpunk, and he's killing it. He's an awesome dude that lives like 10 minutes, 15 minutes away from us. He does everything in his garage, self-taught, and it's pretty nasty. I give him a lot of props. He's a great dude.
Awesome. Yeah, this sounds very exciting. I definitely got to check that out. But well, St. Drago is doing the festival circuit. What's next for it? Do you have plans for streaming? Do you have plans for physical copies? Is somebody picking it up? Anything you can reveal or not reveal?
Yeah. So right now, so we unfortunately like got everything done like late in the year for applying for all the like spring and summer film festivals, except for Fantasia. Like we really hope we get in the Fantasia. That's like my dream. I fucking love Fantasia Fest. So a lot of the things that we applied to are most like horror festivals. A lot of them, happen like September, October, November. So we only heard back from one festival so far. All the other ones we hear back at the end of the month and in July too. So we kind of don't know what's going on with that. But as far as streaming services or distribution goes, we're not really sure. All that's kind of up in the air right now. But we should hopefully know by like end of July, like what's going on.
Well, yeah, keep us updated. We'll update it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. I like your Creep Show 2 poster too, by the way. I love that.
Thank you.
That fucking lake scene destroyed me as a kid. I grew up.
Oh man. Between that and the Blob remake from like '85, dude, I was scared shitless of blobs as a child. Like some kids have clown fears or snakes. No, man, blobs. No, the fucking blob near me.
Creepshow 2 and Jaws made me scared as fuck of water as a kid. I'd be like on a pontoon boat in the most shallow water. Like I'm not
Alligator got me to that scene. That kid, they're playing like Walk the Planks, a Halloween party. A little boy's just like a pirate. He dives in the pool. The alligator snatches him. Like, and my dad down in Miami had a pool too. As a little kid, I was afraid to go in the fucking pool. Then I had the blob from Creepshow 2. I was afraid of the lake near my house. Then Jaws got me with the ocean. I was like, God damn it.
I almost jumped on an alligator once, and my grandparents had a house in Florida, and they had a pool in the backyard. And I went down there to visit. I was a little kid. I went to Cannonball in there, and it looked like a log floating on there. I almost jumped on the back of an alligator.
Oh shit!
Wow.
But you said the next film that Monster Makeup is working on is Queen of the Rats. Is there anything we should be looking for? How far in the future is Queen of the Rats coming? Can you tell us any more about that?
For sure, yeah. So the biggest obstacle for Queen of Rats is like we do it. That one's a little bit more Lovecraft inspired. So we have a gigantic Lovecraftian monster involved too. So we're going to start casting it probably within the next couple of months, and then trying to get the logistics of how we're going to create this monster. This one's going to need a little bit bigger of a budget too. So we're probably going to see like if we do get picked up with Drogo, like we're going to afford all that money into the next project, and maybe like now they have a couple bargaining chips on the table with our two movies. Start approaching like more producers and financiers, because like we're serious about this. Like we want to do this for a living. So we're hoping that like our two movies are enough to prove that we still want to do this, and like we got Queen of the Rats is like ready to go. We want to fucking do it.
Oh yeah.
So that's kind of like where we're at now. We do have a cast in mind, so you will see a lot of familiar faces. So they'll probably get casted pretty quick. We might film a couple of the first scenes just to kind of get something going for if we do like an Indiegogo, just to have like that, a trailer of like what we're doing. But it's kind of what we're doing now. So if you have any sugar daddies or like whatever, send them our way.
I mean, I'm a little long in the tooth now to wrestle up a few sugar daddies who have seen me 20 years ago.
I'm too old for sugar daddy now. Like I don't know how that would work. I'd do like an Anna Nicole Smith kind of situation at this point for me.
Right. Kelly, you're a big Bigfoot fan. Did you notice that Brandon's big Bigfoot, his Sasquatch tattoo?
Not. I see it now. I really like it.
I noticed that in St. Drago, and I figured you would kind of pop for that one.
Yeah, like
I did. Yeah, I did see it in St. Drago. Actually, I didn't even think about it, but yeah.
Well, I was like a weird little closeted kid growing up in northern Vermont. Like I grew up in the woods, like very conservative area, and I was like hardcore into like folklore and unsolved mysteries and all that shit. And like I was a little afraid of horror at the time, so I kind of strayed away from horror. I was reading horror but not watching it. But I used to like sign out these like same like 3 or 4 books about cryptozoology. So this whole sleeve is all like creatures and animals from North American cryptozoology and folklore. Yeah.
Love it.
We're in Portland, Maine. They have the Cryptozoology Museum. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm a big crypto fan. We visited the Mothman Museum when we were in West Virginia.
Shit, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was cool as shit.
They have a big Mothman statue and shit out in front.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And then they have the country's Bigfoot Expo here in Ohio.
Yeah.
Oh, no shit.
We should go to
That
that.
we're talking about going to. Yeah.
Where in Ohio are you guys?
We're in Toledo, but that's down south, like south east, I believe, in Hocking Hills. I think that's like 3 hours away.
Nice. I was in Cincinnati for a little while. I loved
Okay.
it. It was wild.
Yeah, complete other side of the state. Cincinnati's down at the bottom towards West Virginia.
Yeah, we're way at the top.
Oh shit.
With it being Pride Month, is there going to be any screenings of Saint Drago or Death Drop Gorgeous? Are you doing anything special for June besides celebrating my birthday on Thursday?
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah. Happy birthday,
Any
June.
plans?
So we did a cast and crew screening last weekend. So we had one of the Indiegogo perks was, the cast and crew screening, and we had a lot of extras in our film that hadn't seen the film. So we showed at this little theater. We had someone pass out from the gore at the end, which was terrifying / amazing. We were all freaked out. We're like, did we just kill someone? But
I've never seen that in real life. I've only heard about it. Like people passing out from gore. Never seen that.
It was fucking scary. We just heard a bunch of chairs go down. We're like, is someone just drunk and fell? And then everyone was panicking. We're like, oh shit. Ended up being okay.
I used to work at haunted houses, and we used to get bonuses if we made somebody piss themselves.
Yeah.
I imagine it's the same feeling you got there, that I got when I made someone piss themselves.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
If you make someone piss themselves, that would be another bucket list item.
Yeah, it was funny because it was at Cedar Point, the amusement park that's in Sandusky, that's near here. But you could tell because they were on concrete and they'd squat down, and then you'd just see a puddle form underneath them. You're like, got one.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
So one last question before we let you go, Brandon.
Yeah.
Tragedy shows up in Death Drop Gorgeous, but then she shows up again in Saint Drago. Will Tragedy be in Queen of the Rats?
Yes.
The hard yes.
Yeah. And it'll be even more Death Drop Gorgeous adjacent, so she might even be the same character from that briefly.
What was tragedy in Saint Drago? Because she's just hanging out. It looks like Lady Gaga. I was like, oh my goodness, how'd they get her? It is tragedy, right?
Oh yeah. So that in Saint Drago, it's definitely tragedy too. That's the drag queen Complete Destruction. They're fucking fantastic. They're so talented and just a great performer. But you'll definitely be seeing them again.
Very cool. Very exciting. Well, any last words you want to leave Real Vile with before we let you go?
No, thank you guys for doing this. As DIY indie filmmakers, any podcast or media outlet that will listen to us and do this is just we're so appreciative. We can't thank you guys enough. Keep up the hard work. You're doing awesome. We appreciate this.
Well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you're killing it. You've put out 2 feature-length films, and they're both amazing, and in different ways. So people could watch. Some people that might be fans of one film might not be a fan of the other film, but me personally, I loved them each for different reasons. So you are the one killing it, brother, and we are happy to have you on our show. So in the meantime, I'd like to say, keep it spooky, keep it creepy, keep it real vile forever. God bless America, and send nudes. Ow! Hey, all you cats and kittens, all you ladies and lady killers out there in real vile land. This is your old pal, Mr. Germ T. Ripper, saying keep it spooky, keep it creepy, keep it real vile forever. And don't forget, subscribe, and share all our content. Ow!